Alright out there, YouTube. This video I'm going to talk about, this will be part 3 of my search for the ideal folding knife. In this video and maybe the next couple, I think are probably the most important. These are the ways that I, the user, or you, the user, will be interacting with these tools. So what I have here today is a sampling of the most common methods of deploying the blade. So in the last couple of videos we talked about the knife types that I'd prefer and the blade steel. So I like manual knives and I like the premium steels. S30 is the bottom end of premium, so anything better than S30 typically, but S30 is a phenomenal steel. So I mean, I wouldn't shake turn my nose up to S30 either, for that matter. So, but here we're going to talk about the most common methods of deploying knives. So from left to right, we've got a thumb stud, we got a nail nick, we got the Emerson Wave feature, we have a thumb disc, we have a thumb hole, and we have a flipper tab. Now there's others, there's front flippers, in manual knives, I'm kind of drawing a blank for anything else other than a front flipper. But these are going to be your most common. These in a front flipper are going to be your most commonly found methods. I'm going to rule out right off the bat that the nail nick, because the nail nick quite often is associated with traditional knives. Nail nick quite often is associated with traditional knives, back locks, and slip joints. Not really my bag. We discussed that in the original, or I believe we discussed that in the first video. The Emerson Wave feature is a really neat design, really neat idea. But I don't like it as a standalone option. That, to be honest, I haven't discussed this knife. At some point I'll get into this knife. This is one of my most disappointing knives. The Fox Dart. But the Emerson Wave feature by itself is not a good option as a standalone method of deployment. So I'm going to set those two off to the side. I would venture to say that these are probably your most common types: thumb stud, thumb disc, thumb hole, and flipper tab. The flipper tab, it's easy to use. So basically I'm just going to go through and I'm going to discuss the pros and cons of each of these. Flipper tab, it's real fast. As long as the knife's detent is proper. This is an amazing method of deployment. The only problem you're really going to run into with a flipper tab is, you know, this is your knife and this is what people think. This is what you're going to think of when you think of it riding in your pocket. But in reality is what you're going to feel riding in your pocket is that bit right there that's sticking out. Nick Shabazz calls it a pocket pecker because it's just pecking at your leg all day in the pocket. Now, this one in particular, this particular example, not so bad, but most flippers, or just about all flippers, will have something like this. I really don't mind the flipper tab, but it's, for one reason or another, it's one of those styles that I don't really want it to be a standalone thing. I really like the idea of the flipper tab in conjunction with another method. This one's got the tiniest thumb hole in the universe, so I guess I could have gotten one of my Civivis out. I like the idea of a flipper tab as a backup or as a secondary method of operation. Flipper tab. Next, the thumb disc. The thumb disc is easy. I've never tried this before, so I'm trying not to stab myself. Not going to work. The thumb disc is going to get you the most purchase to open the knife. It's a really neat way to dress up your knife. Like if you want to really put some extra flair or bling into your pocket jewelry, the flipper tab is a good way to go. The problem with the flipper tab is it is a big block in the cutting path. So if I'm going to cut this piece of cardboard and I'm cutting along back here, now my flipper tab is stopping me. Or not my flipper tab, my thumb disc is stopping me. I like the positive feel of the thumb disc, but it gets in the way of the cutting path. Now with a blade length this size, thumb disc not a big deal. You know, you still got 2 feet worth of blade to work with, but obviously that's an exaggeration. But it's definitely something to think about where you don't have that problem on a flipper tab, unless there's another method, because there are methods. Flipper tabs and thumb studs, flipper tabs and thumb discs. Thumb discs. Thumb discs have a smaller footprint than a flipper tab, typically. So the way Benchmade put this thumb disc so far back, it's over the sharpening choil. It doesn't really impede with the cutting path. But you don't have the same positive feeling, or at least I personally don't. You know, when I go slow, sure, it's there, it's fine. Get my hand out of the way before I cut myself. You know, when I go slow, it's fantastic. I mean, it's pretty quick. It's there. It's, you know, with enough practice, you can get it to be reverse flicky. I try to do that with everything now since I learned how to do it with the Spydercos. Again, it's another way you can dress it up, but I don't really like the options for dressing this up. versus the thumb disc. Thumb disc is a lot, I don't know, it's different. Flipper tab's okay. A flipper tab's probably the most common method. Now the thumb hole, on the other hand, there is nothing in the cutting path. Once you cut, you just, whatever you're cutting into is just going to pass right over that. There's nothing in the cutting path. You have the most option for flicking, flipping, slow opening. This is the reason that I generally prefer the thumb hole over the thumb disc. Hence the reason half of my Benchmades are models that have thumb holes. It's just fun. Like, I will sit there anytime I'm bored or have free time. I will sit there and do this just non-stop. Until I get tired, and then I'll just go slow. I would say my favorite methods of deployment are from left to right. Again, I'm not even going to really consider the nail nick. Thumb hole, thumb stud, flipper tab, thumb disc, wave feature. Like I said, if I had a front flipper, it'd probably be somewhere in this area. And anytime you get an opportunity to have a knife with multiple features, for example, Paramilitary 2 with thumb hole and the wave feature, it's just a bonus. I mean, that's ideal at the end of the day. So that's where we're at. That's part 3, deployment methods. So to this point, we're to a manual S30V, or better than S30V premium steel with a thumb hole. Next video we'll talk about locks, and then once we get through the locks, you'll pretty much see what the options are going to be. If you guys have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Y'all have a great evening, and it's Memorial Day. Remember, say a prayer to whoever you pray to, or whatever you pray to, for all the veterans and service members you've lost in your life. Other than that, you guys have a great evening.